Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, and somehow the world map music is pretty much absent for the majority of the time, but I'm sure we'll get used to it. So, hey, what's up, ladies and gentlemen? It is I am the one and only Pac-Man here, and once again, I am back for the likes of the Maxi Toys videos. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back for some more of Let's Play of Klonoa 2 Dream Champ Tournament for the Game Boy Advance. So last time we managed able to win for the first world in it game, which appears to be Western Jungle. So today for this video is the fact that we are moving on to the next world in this game, which appears to be Northern Express. So I believe, since that we actually did manage to qualify for the sake of the forms of the actual tournament so far, I believe we are moving on. So, well then, let's find out the first pairings. So in this case, we ended up now onto the actual tournament table. So I believe this is actually the first round we're going to be tackling through. I see. So we got ourselves some pretty interesting lineup there. Huh? We have one extra. So does Klonoa, right? Well, no matter. More fun for us. Positive thinking. I admire that. Now, would each pair of competitors please work your way through these specific visions in order. First is a warm-up. Make it through all the way, all the visions, to progress to the final battle. The first contestant to finish the last vision is the winner. Man, this is tough on the nerves. So, to compete with Klonoa, I need to make it to the end. We both need good luck, I guess. Let's see, my opponent is... Oh snap, we actually come across our familiar foe from Klonoa's first adventure. We have Joker! What? I'm competing against you? Maybe you're better. Just give up now and save yourself the embarrassment of a defeat. You just worry about yourself. Be careful not to get lost. Oh, that does it. This is my chance to shut that big mouth of yours. For the first round, I would like you to board my Northern Express. Can you make it to the front of the train? Now then, in you go, in order. Okay, so like I said, we ended up on the first round of this entire tournament, since after all, like I said, we did pretty much qualify it. So, yeah, let's begin, shall we? So let's go with Vision 2-1. So, yeah, apparently we're going to be exploring into the actual train itself. So, kind of interesting, all things considered. So, in this case, though, yeah, let's get this thing to it. So, few things I want to explain for this point today, and that is the fact that today's day is, of course, the 2nd of March today, in this case in 2022 today, and for those of you who lived in the UK, yes, of course, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Happy 10th anniversary of the release of Mario Party 9 for the Nintendo Wii, at least specifically the European countries, whilst the Americans didn't get it until March the 11th for exactly the same year in 2012. 2012. So I suppose that we'll discuss more details onto that though, specifically until next week roughly. So in this case though, yeah, I can't believe it's been 10 years ago since when Mario Party 9 first came out, and for I've managed able to revisiting that game from time to time, it was alright. I mean, it's nowhere near as like a pure masterpiece or anything compared to the forms of the past few games, ranging from the classic Hudson Soft Mario Party titles. This is mainly because of the forms of the gameplay style that most people seem to able to do not care about, especially noticeable because it's pretty obvious with the lack of strategy and it's all about luck at the same time. But I will still say that the minigames are still fun as ever, which I will say that for the most NT-Cube Mario Party titles, well, including buddy forms of Island Tour, 10, Star Rush, and the Top 100 and Super, those minigames are considered to be the best aspect when it comes to NT-Cube Mario Party titles. I will say this right about now. But regardless of such though, is the fact that, and especially noticeable that the visuals, despite they are heavily borrowed from New Super Mario Bros. Wii, but aside from those side things though, the visuals do look really good. Even on the Nintendo Wii, the graphics do look really good. Especially noticeable about the fact that I even remember back in the day, that unlike in Mario Party 8, that almost takes place in a realistic setting, and especially noticeable that although it does have widescreen support, from the likes of the forms of, well, only the menus and stuff like that, except during gameplay between the boards, especially noticeable with the minigames themselves, well, specifically in Mario Party 8's case, and also that for the majority of everything else from certain minigame and also the majority of the boards in Mario Party 8, usually it's been locked behind 30 frames per second as opposed to the 60 frames per second. So because of that, well, thankfully in Mario Party 9, at least what I remember back in the day, that thankfully that game does have a smooth 60 frames per second, including with all of the boards and all of the minigames throughout. So at least that's that, I suppose. And also, ever since in Mario Party 2 that I found out, well, at least if I also want to count Mario Party Advance as well, that apparently that what I remember back in the day as well, that was in 2012 in that case, I believe what Sonic did actually told me about this ever since during that time, that he did found out that Mario Party 9 does only have one save file, just like it informs of how it does on any other games in the series. Well, at least your exception being is the Top 100, because somehow the Top 100 is the only NT-Cube Mario Party title to able to feature file selection. So because of that though, yeah, honestly I have no idea why they managed able to strike back those the lack of the file selections, because usually, relatively speaking, that ever since its introduction into the file selection screen from the likes of ever since in Mario Party 3 all the way up to, well, Mario Party DS, that you can able to actually just well, share files if you managed able to have your you know, the actual physical copies of certain games throughout. But either way though, I honestly have no idea why I explained about this from the start, so but I digress. And yeah, let me know in the comments below for the question of the day. Have you guys ever experienced Mario Party 9 after 10 years of its release, and you still like it back in the day, or you actually have you got your second opinion on the actual the game itself after 10 years of its release? Because I still find the game alright, but it's not my favorite game in the series, just because of the forms of the lack of strategy that is what makes you know, the past Mario Party games so great. And it's especially noticeable that every now and then, since that from the likes of Super Mario Party, as well as Mario Party Superstars, thankfully those two games does have a bit of strategy involved, specifically with the items and all that stuff, and also you can move around the board quite freely, so in this case though, that makes things a little bit more obvious sense, because obviously Nintendo Switch is doing super well. In fact, I'm very curious to see what the actual the selling records for the sake of the forms of the Nintendo Switch is going for, until mainly at some point during on May, for the sake of the forms of this year, because I don't know if I can able to actually discuss on this right about now, because it's a bit too early to predict at the moment, especially noticeable that, well, about that time until this month in particular also, that we might able to actually just say we're able to actually just try to celebrate the release of Kirby and the Forgotten Land for the Nintendo Switch. So, speaking of Nintendo Switch though, is the fact that recently, I did manage to able to actually, well, I still managed to able to consider pre-ordering the Mario Kart 8 Deluxe DLC Booster Course Pack. And also, I did manage to get myself my another eShop game that I finally managed to able to download it. And that's what appears to be by the forms of the sequel to Kirby Fighters ever since on the 3DS. Which, yes, I finally managed to able to obtain myself Kirby Fighters 2 for the Nintendo Switch. So, yeah, very happy to have that though, especially noticeable because I've heard good things about it though, especially noticeable that thankfully, unlike in, well, let's just say, unlike any forms of how it does it on Super Kirby Clash, that game is locked 30 FPS, whilst in the forms of Kirby Fighters 2, thankfully it's now back into 60 frames per second, which is great, especially noticeable about the fact that, well, it's been like, I don't know, 2 years late for able to actually now finally got the game, or should I say, a year and a half late for the sake of able to now finally got the game, after I managed able to finally obtain myself Kirby Fighters Deluxe, and especially noticeable with Kirby Fighters as in a sub-game from Kirby Triple Deluxe. So, yeah, that seems totally awesome at the same time, so we can able to expect this much, so... Anyway, speaking of the forms of Power Factor, you guys remember about the fact that in yesterday's Wario Land 4 Let's Play that I somehow managed to able to complain about the forms of why Nintendo just somehow managed to able to try to kill the eShop applications between both the Wii U and 3DS, which I found was a little bit upsetting. But regardless of everything else though, I did somehow manage to able to download the last few DS games I'll be meaning to able to maybe try to do a Let's Play on in the future anyway, which I think I've already technically mentioned about this, but I think I've already got Mario Slam Basketball on the DS, so that way we can able to possibly able to do another Mario spin-off series until maybe at some point next year for its own sports titles, because after all, that we've almost wrapped things up with every other Mario Party games at this rate. In fact, you know, if we somehow manage to able to conclude every single Mario Party games up to this point, God knows until when the next one's gonna be on this horizon, until maybe at some point in 2024, because seriously, every time whenever the new console Mario Party games is being released, they always manage to able to make it a thing, likely for 3 years time, between the forms of, well, let's just say in 2012 that we've got Mario Party 9, and then in 3 years later we have Mario Party 10, and then another 3 years later we have Super Mario Party, and in 2021, which is about another 3 years later, then we got Mario Party Superstars. So yeah, that seems totally obvious for the sake of that particular pattern. So at the very least, I can assure you that Mario Party Superstars is doing super well still. So I can at least expect that. So anyways, about with the forms of the last few purchasable items that I've got, for the sake of the forms of the Wii U eShop downloads, that is the fact that I somehow managed able to get myself the rest of the NES Mario games, ranging from Super Mario Bros. And Super Mario Bros. The Lost Levels, and Super Mario Bros. 2, aka Super Mario USA. Because ever since that we've already got ourselves Super Mario Bros. 3 onto the Wii U Virtual Console re-release, not just by the forms of the original version of the NES, but also the Game Boy Advance remake as well, because of the e-reader levels. And because of that though, I feel like we can able to actually go for those classic 4 2D Mario games again, for able to do a Let's Play of those original forms of those games. But this time around though, we can able to do as in, you know, like I said, with the original versions throughout. So, I do apologize if my commentary gets a little bit more awkward every once in a while. This is mainly because of our fact that for some reason I just belch most of the time, which I know is incredibly gross, because despite the fact that I'm eating too many of those pack dots every once in a while, but regardless of everything else though, that's how I'm essentially going to be doing when it comes to playing Pac-Man, my very own game, and then just, well, you know what I'm saying. So Anyway, and for those other games I did manage to guard for the DS lineup for the sake of hopefully trying to do a Let's Plays of in the future, and those are Yoshi's Island DS for the sake of able to maybe trying to get our hands on the Yoshi games for that matter. Although technically we've already done 2 of them already, which are Yoshi's Woolly World on the Wii U/3DS, despite the fact that we haven't shown off the rest of the 3DS content, but usually relatively speaking, because relatively speaking I haven't exactly touched upon my 3DS for quite some time, and also Yoshi's Crafted World for the Nintendo Switch. So maybe we can able to do even more Yoshi Let's Plays in the future, to be more specifically Yoshi's Island or Yoshi's Story, and especially noticeable with the forms of Yoshi's Island DS. I'm not exactly sure about Yoshi's New Island though, mainly because that particular game does require you to able to go with the gyroscope controls, well, to be more specifically with gyro sensing controls, just like in Sonic Lost World for the 3DS. So I don't know if I'm actually going to be ready for that installment yet, but either way though, we'll see what happens in due time, so... Alright, so we're not doing too bad, all things considered, on Vision 2. So, and of course you can able to actually skip those particular sequences by simply pressing the start button, so that way you can able to actually just to go ahead and continue things on from here. So, anyway, so let's move on to Vision 2-4, that once again we are going on to into a hoverboard again, except now that we have to deal with the forms of another different perspective. However, this particular perspective might actually be one of the hardest of the those hoverboard sections, is because, well, you can't really see what's above, what's ahead of you, so you're gonna have to able to do a massive guess, because if you really try to able to desperately want to go after all of the actual S ranks throughout the game, which thankfully it's entirely optional, because you don't need to necessarily deal with all these, so unless if you go for 100% completion for the sake of the rest of everything else really, so because of that though, yeah, that might be some conception. So, in fact, relatively speaking, it's the fact that certain hoverboard segments like these ones are actually by far is kind of short too. So at the very least, there might be something going for it for the sake of the forms of how short and all that stuff of some of these segments work. So, yeah, that's that. So I highly doubt I'm probably not going to get the S rank for this point, because I've obviously got hit by the random enemy, just managed able to come right in front of my face, or just behind me, but regardless of such though, we'll just try to cope with it, I suppose, so... Anyway, so now we've actually unlocked the next level, but before we get into that though, we need to head over to Vision 2-5, so in this case though, it's now in sunset for this entire world so far, so as you can see, most of those enemies every now and then, specifically those guys as I'm obviously picking up and just, you know, trying to walk with it, actually now able to actually have themselves a conductor outfit, so ranging from the hat and all that stuff, which still, it does remind me of Mario Party 2 for most of its extents, so... Anyway, and also I've managed able to download it, Star Fox Command, so at least I'm pretty much all set when it comes to likely trying to prepare for its development for our Let's Plays of the Star Fox Marathon. So I'm pretty much all set. So, well, the only game exception being is Star Fox 64 3D, because obviously that game also utilizes gyroscope controls, and also lack a 3DS capturing device. But at the very least, it plays out exactly the same thing as the N64 original, but with nice, richer visuals and stuff like that. So, but I digress. So, yeah, I guess that's that. Because I was gonna able to get myself, let's just say, Mario vs. Donkey Kong tipping stars for the Wii U and 3DS, but I don't know. From what I've looked on the gameplay footage, it just feels a bit, I don't know, underwhelming to me. Well, aside from the fact that it's more likely the HD version of Miniland Mayhem originally came out on the DS, but except the fact that they added in some new cool elements to it, like the cursed monkey and stuff like that, as well as the forms of Mini Luigi now able to actually just introduced into there. So, yeah, it might be hard to explain, because I know for the fact that it has been donkey's years since I actually last known about the forms of the Mario vs. Donkey Kong series, because I'm still growing up with the forms of the first game in the series, because, you know what I mean, the first game is super nostalgic for my taste, so... yeah, that's why I was essentially almost about to be giving up on the rest of the series up to that point. And also, originally, I was expecting if I was trying to able to get myself Mario vs. Donkey Kong Minis March again on the DSiWare before the actual shop instantly closes for the sake of the 3DS eShop, because until by that time, until in 2023 and onwards, there is no way you can able to actually access to those DSiWare games anymore. So because of that though, the only way you can only do it is by able to, God knows, trying to hack your DSi, or even just try to able to just, well, you know what I mean. So, and also another thing I should probably mention about this as well, that I suppose I forgot to mention about ever since about 2 days ago. A few days ago actually, recently we've actually got ourselves another Pokemon Presents presentation, which this time around though, it takes place in, for some reason it does manage to take place in Sunday this time around, which is a little bit different, all things considered, especially noticeable because usually, relatively speaking, sometimes it does manage to take place in Thursdays or here and there, but for some reason it's the fact that it does manage to take place on Sunday this time. I think my guess is just the fact that we've already managed to experience a Happy Pokemon Day ever since on, well, last Sunday and stuff like that, which I suppose that Ray the Flying Squirrel has forgot to mention about from the likes of in Mario Party 7. In fact, speaking of Mario Party 7 though, is the fact that he's almost finishing up with that Let's Play before we move on to the next Mario Party game, before he now finally diving right into Mario Party Superstars. So because of that though, we only got Mario Party 8 left, and then hopefully we'll able to get around onto Mario Party Superstars. Mainly not on summer though, mainly because that basically Muxy is still needs able to go back onto, maybe he'll go back onto Super Mario 3D All-Stars for the likes of Super Mario Sunshine during the summer. So because of that though, just try to match the theme and everything. So yeah, you probably get the idea about that. And maybe eventually, assuming if E3 will start to come into play, then basically though we can able to actually let Maxi will mention a lot of conversations whenever when the E3 was a thing in this year. Well, it might be still speculating at the moment because, well, relatively speaking, we still need able to actually just to be cautious out there. But regardless of such though, speaking of cautious though, is the fact that I feel incredibly sorry for the Ukraine country at the moment, because for some stupid reason is that Russia is now going to be able to actually doing a war against with Ukraine. And I was like, oh, you dirty... I'm not going to say anything because obviously I'll just get a bit of restrictions when it comes to YouTube and stuff like that. So yeah, that's how that I think, personally speaking, I think Russian country is just, I don't know, kind of bad, honestly, because sometimes they might be felt a bit hypocritical, but even then, though, I'm just usually trying to say for this point right now, it's just that I don't know if I can able to go into Russian after all, because, well, it can be pretty dangerous there. Especially noticeable with the actual wars going on, so we just don't want to go there. But anyway, let's get into the forms of the actual discussion about the forms of several of announcements that usually Pokemon Presents didn't manage to able to bring us into. Like, for example, that we actually got ourselves some new info for the sake of the forms of Pokemon Go, and that we're now able to actually decide able to have the ability to catch all types of Pokemon, ranging from the forms of, I would say that was based off from Gen 7, so because of that though, yeah, you can now finally able to actually capture several Pokemon on the go from the likes of you trying to catch Generation 7 types of Pokemon. So, and also, Pokemon Masters app, specifically Pokemon Masters EX, is able to actually celebrate the game as in 2.5 years since its release back in, I would say since in 2019. So because of that though, maybe just added in some more content, specifically Victory Road. And also that if you somehow managed able to complete that, I'm assuming so anyway, then you get yourselves about 5,000 gems. So that might be seems pretty cool, despite the fact that I still haven't actually got that game because, well, personally speaking, I wasn't exactly a massive fan of Pokemon though. Maybe I'm not exactly the biased for that, but that's probably just me. Well, aside from watching anime, which I always enjoy. But anyways, enough about that. And the next thing they did show us is some more info for the sake of the forms of Pokemon Cafe remakes from the likes of the forms of new updates as well as the Pokemon Day events. So basically that's as far as I can say about that. So it's nothing special, but it's just if you really want to get the rest of the remainings of the Pokemon there. Although what's weird about this is the fact that for some reason they still managed able to skip the conversation about the forms of Pokemon Sleep, which I honestly have no idea why. They've somehow not mentioning about the forms of Pokemon Sleep app yet. So it might be seems a bit too early to discuss or something, or maybe it's just still in development or trouble developing certain stuff like this. Well, it's hard to explain. And enough about that. And the next thing they did show us is the holding a Pokemon Day event for Pokemon Unite. So I guess that's that, I suppose. And because obviously the Pokemon franchise has been out for about 26 years now, ever since in 1996 or something. So yeah, time flies, doesn't it? And also, you would able to think yourself about the fact that, wow, are they able to actually bring in any news for the sake of the forms of, well, I don't know about you, when it comes to likely Detective Pikachu sequel. Well, for that particular presentation, it isn't, which I'll discuss on that later. So, I suppose that the next thing they did revealed is the fact that with a new update, for the likes of Pokemon Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl, which basically, I think Professor Oak did somehow manage to show up, and then basically, apparently there's that familiar Pokemon that we actually somehow managed to love, ever since from the likes of the Giratina the Sky Warrior DVD that we've still got. Basically, Shaman, specifically the land form of her, basically now finally makes an appearance from the likes of Pokemon Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl, which I almost first thought it was going to be like Platinum DLC, but apparently it isn't, so oh well, no big deal. And the next thing they actually did show us is a free update for the likes of Pokemon Legends Arceus, and apparently it's going to be getting ourselves the Daybreak thing. And basically that's a software update, specifically version 1.1.0. And basically, I'm presuming it might actually added in some new features or something. Well, mind you, I haven't exactly looked upon that much Let's Plays of the game as much. But regardless of such though, you can able to actually also get yourselves the some free gifts here and now as well for the likes of the Pokemon Day. And that's what appears to be by the forms of 30 Ultra Balls and 30 Jet Balls and 30 of those Gigaton Balls each. So yeah, that seems interesting. Even though you have to hurry up though, because obviously if you don't manage to able to actually insert the code, even though it does have a password on there, which if you insert it, basically if you type in like Arceus Adventure, no space included, so basically if you type that, you're able to actually access those useful items. So, but you have to hurry up though, because you might as well able to do it before March 31st, which, seriously, why is it always March 31st? Like, kinda like how it did in new forms of the Mario's 35th anniversary selections of items, which I honestly have no words. And, anyway, and apparently though, they're also about to be able to doing a, let's just say a special development for the sake of the forms of the anime special or something like that, which I was very curious to see how that's going to turn out, and especially noticeable about the fact that we'll have to wait and see what happens in a later time. But anyway, let's just go ahead and go over there and grab this last star, so that way we can able to leave the level like so. So, oh jeez, it took me some time to able to actually just figure this out, but luckily though we somehow made it. And unfortunately though, I've got hit twice, so that means I got a C rank, so that's just terrific. But whatever though, at the very least we actually got ourselves some plentiful of extra lives at this point, so, and it looks like we've unlocked 2 more levels, so let's move on to, let's just say Visions 2-7, in this case another auto-scrolling level, so we can able to expect this much, so. And as you can tell, it's now in nighttime on this particular level, which I will say, it does look pretty cool for its visual style for the sake of the forms of this particular level sometimes, because wow, it's hard to explain because I know for the fact that it has been 2 days ago since I actually last touched this, because obviously that I'm still working on back on doing new forms of in Warrior Land 4 at some point, but again, we'll scout away and find out during that time. But anyway, let's just go ahead and climb for those little cage fences and all that stuff before we continue proceeding through our progression, and we should be able to be safe from here because, well, it seems pretty obvious that for those certain sections that it obviously contains like 15 of those dream stones in each section, so but there's not much right to home about. But anyway, so again, I do apologize if my commentary gets a little bit more awkward at points, because for some reason it's that my throat is actually getting a bit croaked up. But hopefully it's just I, well, finish this particular commentary, then I can able to actually just to relax and just chill out for a bit and play some video games from time to time on my own time. Mainly for likely trying out some new games in the future before new selections of games are about to be on its horizon, such as, like I said, this month we're able to actually make its release of Kirby and the Forgotten Land, which I was really hyped about, and especially noticeable because, well, it's about time to able to have a actual Kirby game in 3D. Oh god! Oh jeez, that was close. Because yeah, if you somehow manage able to do not keep up with the screen, then you die instantly, so just be very careful, so. But there we go, we made it to the end, and I need to jump to the cannon somehow before we leave the level like so. Whew, that was quite a close one. Especially noticeable that I really refused to able to actually start all over again, apart from the fact that, well, luckily, you're still able to get checkpoints on those auto-scrolling segments of levels, the only time exception being the hoverboard stages, as well as the boss races and stuff like that, so that might be seems a little bit more pretty obvious by that point. So anyways, let's move on to level or vision 2-8, so we can able to actually just to go into, well, more puzzle solving throughout. So, and this is what I mean when it comes to the fact that for certain puzzle segments every once in a while gets a lot more tougher every now and then, especially noticeable during later on throughout the game. So, but I will try my best if I was trying to able to easily solve them, so if possible. So anyway, and I suppose that's pretty much about. Oh, wait a second, I forgot about this one last thing they actually shown us for the sake of the forms of the Pokemon Presents presentation. That is the fact that I can almost assume that on the first bit of the trailer, I almost thought to myself, could it be possibly be Detective Pikachu sequel or something like that on the Nintendo Switch? Well, it turns out usually Game Freak is also going to be involved around on this next game in the series, which this time around though is going back onto its mainstream Pokemon title again, ever since in Pokemon Sword and Shield back in 2019, which yes, apparently Pokemon is getting itself its Generation 9 counterpart. So in this case, we're now on the 9th generation of the Pokemon games, which this time around, I'm pursuing to you, or I can assure, that it might actually take place in Spain this time, although I may be wrong, even though let me know in the comments, because I'm not exactly sure about the forms of several regions that it's actually based off from. I do definitely know for the fact that from Generation 8, it's actually based off from England, whilst the forms of in Generation 7 is obviously based off Ula, or Hawaii region or something like that. And I'm not exactly sure about the other regions that it's actually based off from for those specific regions on certain generations of Pokemon titles, but I'm not exactly sure what Generation 9 is going to be based off from, but even though, still, let me know in the comments. And the two games are going to be called this time around is Pokemon Scarlet and Pokemon Violet. So, yeah, interesting name in theory, so because of that though, and as far as I'm aware, that apparently someone did say about the fact the matter is though, is the fact that I will say, the visuals do look much nicer now, even especially noticeable, it almost kind of reminds me of the kind of like the exact same engine as the forms of how it does it on Pokemon Legends Arceus most of the time, despite the fact that the textures might be still a little bit lower than the others. But I will say, it does look rather nice this time around though, but at the very least, some people might actually be a little bit worried about the fact that with the actual natural Pokédex system might actually get ditched again. So that means about the fact that there's going to be a lot of controversy out there. But ultimately speaking, for I've seen the actual, the trailer itself, it does look rather nice for its visual standpoint or anything. So, at the very least, there's something going for it. And especially noticeable, they bring us into ourselves the 3 new starters to those Pokemon, join us within this time. Even though it's still going to be evolved around, you know, fire type, water type, and grass types of Pokemon, which, let me know in the comments of what their names are, because I am having trouble with the forms of pronunciation certain Pokemon names at this point. So, yeah, let me know in the comments for those of you all the Pokemon experts out there. So, yeah, let me know. So, even then though, because it's obviously new to me, so we can able to expect that. So, anyway, so let's go ahead and, grab this little 1-up token, so just in case we can able to rank up some more extra lives, and able to obtain the Sunstone in the process, so... And as far as I'm aware, the release date for Pokemon Scarlet and Pokemon Violet are both on the Nintendo Switch, by the way, so... Feels like the Pokemon games is actually getting a little bit more popular now onto the Nintendo Switch, because obviously, they've obviously, already made it to the top 10, best-selling games at the moment for... I'm talking about the mainstream Pokemon titles, not counting the spin-offs, I'm afraid. So because of that, though, God knows until when the new Pokemon games gotta come out, I don't know if they might as well able to beat, although I highly doubt it will not beat Mario Kart 8 Deluxe sales records, because obviously DLC is now a thing. So because of that, though, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe will still pretty much gonna be on the top, for the sake of the forms of the best-selling games for the certain platform. But either way, we'll see what happens there. So yeah, excuse me, I'm very sorry about this point, folks, because although obviously until at some point on this Friday, though, I promise you guys, or maybe tomorrow actually, whenever I go back into Warrior Land 4, like I said, then hopefully I won't be able to actually belch too many times. So, because otherwise it'll be gross and disgusting for certain manners. So anyways, let's grab the last Star Stone right here, and we should able to leave the level like so. So, there we go. Even though it did manage to take me a couple of minutes to do this, because as far as I'm aware, in addition to making certain puzzle segments a lot more harder, but it also, most of the levels in this game can go by the longest of the bunch. So, even though it might be hard to explain, because like I said, it's been 2 days ago since I actually last touched this, so... Anyway, so now we're done with those levels, and now let's move on to face off against with our familiar foe from the likes of Dr. Phantomile, which is none other than, well, Joker himself. So, let's get to it. No way, you made it. I paid those guys a lot of money. What were they doing? Hey, you can't buy an adventure with money. Impended brat, I guess I'll just have to buy out all of the monsters from now on. Hey, he left first. No fair. Now stop. Oh. Now then, we'll begin the race between Joker and Clenoa. The rules are easy. The first one to reach the goal is the winner. However, the monsters that I have prepared will make things difficult. Oh boy. Both of you take care not to go down together. Monsters, huh? Right, I'm ready. So yes, let's get on with the second race. So, and this time around though is the fact that we don't need to worry about the forms of our huge monsters gonna chase us. So, at the very least we're safe. Well, apart from the fact that we need to able to come across into several other mini-boss encounters every once in a while, but hopefully we'll try to able to do this. So, Anyway, so as far as the actual release date for Pokemon Scarlet and Pokemon Violet is going to be coming, I believe once again it's going to coming out during at some point in late this year. So, seriously, why is it always going to be late certain years for that time? Because I know for the fact that ever since in, well, let's just say Pokemon Black and White version 2, for the likes of the forms of the DS era, they managed able to begin the introduction to the late releases for certain years to come. So it continues that tradition in the future, though, all the way up to this point right now for the likes of 2022. So I think my guess is the fact that it will once again take place in let's just say in November's release. So yeah, that might be expected to see how this is going. So. But yeah, let me know in the comments below also about the forms of how, in fact, what would you guys think about the forms of this new Pokemon game, specifically Pokemon Generation 9, now finally exists, that some people are usually able to do a lot of predictions during that time, because sure enough, it's now coming true. So because of that though, yeah, we are now on 9 generations of Pokemon, so yeah, it seems kind of crazy, doesn't it? Especially noticeable about the fact that I think my guess is that Game Freak did somehow rush the game a little bit. So I was expecting it was about to be out during at some point of next year in 2023 if possible. But either way though, apparently it's going to be saying it's going to come out during this year in 2022. So I guess that's that, I suppose. So yeah, we have to do it with this particular guy before you're able to progress, because otherwise, that way we can able to just, you know, try to deal up with the forms of those barrel thingies first before we're able to deal with a, I would say a singular hit on that particular face itself. So, yeah, I guess that probably explains it, so. Anyway, so let's go ahead and, keep doing this, and then, oh god, okay, there we go. And also I just realized about something about this as well, that speaking of Nintendo Switch though, is the fact that until tomorrow, after this video is going to release, and especially noticeable that maybe we can able to actually just wrap things up on Wario Land 4 during the exact same time, as in, yes, tomorrow it will be the 5th year anniversary of the release of the Nintendo Switch. In this case, the most successful Nintendo system at this point. Well, almost anyway, because they still need to catch up on the Nintendo DS sales records and stuff like that, or sales figures, but even then, we'll see what happens in the future years. So, anyway, so, and also I just realized is the fact that we actually stumbled across our familiar enemy from the likes of Klonoa 2, Lunatic's Veil. That's basically, once again, if you ever played Klonoa 2, Lunatic's Veil, that, basically, if you managed able to grab something related to electricity kind of enemy, basically does the fact that that allows you to able to actually just to go even jump a little bit more higher compared to regular enemies you can able to do a double jump with. So that might be something it's worth obviously explaining about this, because obviously, honestly, there's not much else I can say at this point, apart from the fact that I've already mentioned about quite a number of things recently, which I guess is a good thing, but hopefully until maybe at some point on next month, or should I say later on this month I should say, and especially noticeable until, well, also I just realized that we've only got about a month left now until the Sonic the Hedgehog movie 2 is going to be on the horizon as well. So because of that though, I'm super excited about this as well. So yeah, we're actually getting pretty close to, oh jeez, 8 hits as soon as I managed to get hit. I think the hardest part about that level for me sometimes is actually trying to able to dodge those rocks coming from above. So that'll be the only hardest aspect about the forms of that particular boss fight sometimes. But anyway, now we've actually completed the second world, in this case, well, let's just say Northern Express. So in this case, great. Here's an illusion for World 2. Joker was trying to manipulate that moves with money. Jeez, bag. I won't let him beat me. By the way, see Wiggy, you would, yeah, you might as well able to notice about that. So I do apologize if my commentary gets a little bit more, like I said, a bit awkward, but I'm just saying this right about now. The winner of the race is Klonoa. Yahoo! And I told those moves to make trouble for Klonoa. I paid them a lot of money too. The monsters around here are pretty rich. They accepted your money anyway. Ah! Give me my money back. How much would I get for beating you? Well, I give up. I'm sorry. Still, it feels like a shadow version of Klonoa from the Sonic series, I suppose. So, with that being said though, we've now actually accessed this next world onto the east. So yeah, join me next time for more of Let's Play of Klonoa 2 Dream Champ Tournament. That is the fact that we are moving on to the next world in this game, which appears to be Eastern Desert. So I'll see you guys on Friday. Later, fellas.